Okay, so I'm hearing that there's fear, but it sounds like there's opportunity as well. Big
Absolutely.
opportunity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then I've got down, and I've just written this down, that the purpose of today is to help you with skills and strategies to not go in afraid and incredibly doubtful. Now, the way that the mind works is it doesn't work in negatives. So, for example, if you say, I want to lose weight, I don't want to be fat, for example, the mind will just hear, I want to be fat, right? Whereas if you flip it and say, I want to have a healthy, active, fit body, then the mind has something to grasp onto that's a positive and not a negative. So can we flip that? Skills and strategies too, and instead of not going afraid and incredibly doubtful, let's flip that. Skills and strategies to go in. What's the opposite of afraid?
Skills and strategies to go in with curiosity, and because I feel like the opposite of afraid is confident, but I don't think that I necessarily need to go in with confidence. I need to go in with curiosity and open-mindedness.
Okay. And is there anything else? You talked about incredibly doubtful, or does that complete it for you? Curiosity.
I think like a willingness to try. Yeah.
Okay. So would you be willing to try a visualization exercise? Because I'm thinking it might be quite powerful to get you into that sort of resourceful state where you do have your open mind and you are curious and you're willing and eager to try. And I don't know if you've done this before with any anchoring. No? Okay. So anchoring is when you get yourself into states of resourcefulness and you create a trigger that will allow you to access this at any single time. So that when you are feeling anxious or you are feeling self-doubt, you're able to anchor into that trigger, and it puts you automatically back into that frame of mind, that positive frame of mind. And there's different triggers that you can have. So if you're a kinetic person, it could be like a finger, or a physical touch. If you're oral, it could be a word, a keyword, or if you're visual, it could be like a picture or an image. So we'll be working with the feelings in your body as well. So if you are kinetic, we can sort of press into a specific part of your body, or what resonates the most with you in terms of 3 options.
I think maybe something physical, because I can see it and feel it, because I'm very visual, but my husband laughs at how tactile I am because I have to touch everything, see how it feels.
You're telling me I once got my tongue stuck to the side of an ice skating rink.
Oh gosh.
I wanted to feel what it would be like.
Yeah.
Painful.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just take a couple of deep breaths, get yourself into a position where you can completely relax. And if your daughter comes in, don't worry, just let it wash over you. Any distractions, we're fine.
Okay.
And shut your eyes if you'd like. And we're going to take a couple of deep breaths all the way down into your abdomen. And we're going to release them. Yeah. And I want you to just take a moment to fully appreciate this time and this opportunity and this intention that you've given yourself to invest in your happiness and well-being and future. And as you carry on breathing, I want you to feel your body relax. I want you to feel your jaw tension just unwind. Feel your shoulders slump. Any tension in your shoulders or lower back just start to melt away. And just focus on the weight of your body on your sit bones and any contact of your feet on the floor. Just take a moment to mentally put any concerns or anxieties or judgments that you have aside. If you like, you can visualize a little box on the floor and you can put them in there and then push them to the side. And when we're finished, if you so wish, you can pick them up and unpack them and take them back on. But for this session, this is all about you and you're completely clear. Okay? And I want you to imagine a time. I want you to remember a time in your life when you were incredibly curious and open and eager to learn, where everything just seemed to respond to your curiosity, and you learned and you grew and everything fell into place, where everything felt like an adventure and a journey. Take your time to sift through a number of different times like that until you find the one that best resonates with you. And when you find it, you can let me know either by nodding your head or by telling me, because this can be an internal journey where you process it all in your head, or you can talk to me.
Like tell you what it is?
Either way, you can talk to me or you can just go through it in your head, whatever feels best for you.
Because I'm conflicted, because the thing that came to mind is when I was learning something, but I didn't necessarily apply it. Would that still work?
What was the outcome of that? What was the feeling?
Just like that I could accomplish anything challenging.
Yeah.
I guess, if that makes sense.
And is there a positive association with that in terms of output?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go there.
Okay.
Right. In fact, Lauren, what I'd say is just let me know when you're at that stage. Just say yes or just nod, and we'll keep this as an internal journey. So
Okay.
that you
Yeah,
can
I'm good.
really, really, really focus into it. Okay.
Okay.
So I want you to imagine that time. Okay, and I want you to see yourself as you were then. Curious and open-minded and eager to try and driven and energized. And I want you to look at that, Lauren, and I want you to notice, what's her energy? Can you feel it? How does she hold herself? How does she interact with others? How do they respond? How do events unfold within and outside of her? I want you to make the colors bigger and brighter. Amplify them as if you're turning up a dial. Amplify that feeling that you get being near her of energy and unbridled curiosity. Wanting to dive in and discover and to learn. This natural, innate curiosity to explore and to grow and to learn and to enjoy the journey. I want you to really turn up that energy so that you can actually feel it pulsating out towards you. Make that Lauren physically bigger, if you like, in your mind. Make the colors sharper. What can you feel? What can you see? And how does it affect you? Notice her posture. Notice the way that she moves with ease. And what I want you to do is I want you to go and walk behind this Lauren. And I want you to step into her body. Embody her so that you are now her. And feel that curiosity, feel that energy. Feel that eagerness and that willingness to explore and discover and grow. Feel that enjoyment in just being. And this feeling of open-heartedness and curiosity. I want you to amplify those feelings. Imagine you're actually turning up a dial and feeling it within your own body. Notice how you put your energy out into the world. Notice how people respond to you. In what ways do you live your life? In what ways are you willing to try? Turn up those feelings, magnify them. Feel that sense of curiosity and enjoyment in the process of discovery and learning. Where do you feel it in your body? I want you to locate it and put your hand just over it. Okay. Now I want you to amplify those feelings. Imagine you're turning up a dial from 0 all the way up to 50. Where are you now? Keep turning it up. Notice that feelings of confidence and curiosity and openness and enjoyment and eagerness and willingness to try. Keep turning that dial and notice the feelings in your body. Amplify them. Feel your energy and your curiosity and your openness get bigger and broader and wider as they emanate out of you. Feel it in your bones and enjoy that moment, that liberating feeling. And as you do so, I want you to anchor into that place in your body that you feel. I want you to press it. Okay? Press it in a way that we're building a connection between the powerful feeling that you have. So notice the tension as you press. I want you to press it with a specific tension so that when you do this later on, you will be able to anchor back into this moment of intense and wonderful curiosity. This beautiful expression of willingness and creativity. Amplify it as you press into your chest. And breathe in and just savor this moment. Savor this feeling. And know that at any moment, you can step into this Lauren, because she's always been you. And she'll always be there. Just a couple of deep breaths is all it takes. So staying as this Lauren now, and calling all of the wisdom that she has naturally to offer in this situation. Let's talk about this new opportunity that you have to learn and to grow in this new job. So I'm inviting you to call in that Lauren, that open, willing Lauren. And if it helps you to answer these questions, you can anchor back in. So as you go from that safe space, that openness and that curiosity, what advice does that Lauren have to offer you now? And if you
Just, sorry.
close your eyes. And I want you not to answer from your head. I want you to answer from here.
Okay.
What is the best advice that you can offer Lauren right now before she goes and starts at the new school?
Am I telling you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Just try it. And, learning as you go is powerful learning as you try and do it.
And what advice can she give you about communication?
Communication with others.
Yeah, communication with others. Being able to share your ideas in a way that will be accepted and respected.
Using phrases like I wonder if we were to use this tool to take a look at the needs of the school. I wonder what the needs are in this classroom. I wonder what ways we can support teachers.
And what advice can she give you about handling the feedback from this admin?
Write it down and digest it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what would be the most wonderfully curious, open way for you to digest this?
I think rather than just reacting and taking it personally, if I write it down and I see it and I try to digest it, I can perhaps look from a different lens. Because, you know, her lens is going to be looking after every student and every teacher in the school, right? So be willing to see how her perspective is for the greater good.
And what's your perspective? What's your lens?
Just helping the special needs kids, but also growing teachers, I think. And when I say growing teachers, you know, like what you said, and it really resonated with me when I took that coaching class. And it was a complete shift in my thoughts and approaches. Was you're not there to tell them what to do. You want the ideas to come from them, and they'll take more ownership, right? So rather than saying like, oh, well, when we worked with this kind of student, this is what we should be doing, ask them kind of, you know, what they find challenging. So in terms of communication, I think it's easy for me to go in as the fixer. And I need to be cautious of that because I don't want the, to come across as, well, she thinks she knows what she's doing, right? So, yeah, I think that's going to be super important in my role. Especially knowing that there's reluctant staff and they have not been coached before.
Have they been listened to, do you think?
I wonder that because they, so this intense principal this is her first year here at the school, and the other principal was very hands off, and you know, like, so this woman's very data driven. Here's the things we need to get done. Here's the research and the pedagogy behind it, and this is why we need to do this. Where the other person was just his MO was the attachment theory. And so this principal now, she said her review is these teachers care so much for their students, and that's the number one thing. And so when you ask if they've been listened to and are heard, I think that they have been, and I think that this admin has done a lot to have voices heard, because she said, so a couple examples of talking about supervision and class composition and things, she asked the entire staff, give me all of your ideas. I want to hear your wildest ideas, right? So that she gave them opportunities in multiple ways and multiple times for a lot of ideating, if you want to use that design thinking term. So yes. And I think that she has recognized that that's really important, because at the beginning of the year, she did go in guns a-blazing. And actually one staff member in the first staff meeting of the year said, you can't talk to us like that and you can't tell us what to do. So I think it was a huge shift for her to take a step back. And I think that she knows that that the staff need to be heard. But she also said, I know that they want kids to be pulled out for support and we're not doing that. So it's like, yeah, she's a tricky pickle.
Yeah, I'm hearing there's a tension in
Mm,
her own job role and also within her own character,
mm, mm,
in terms of what comes naturally to her and maybe what
yeah,
might work best.
right.
So, what is your curiosity and openness um, learning about this admin? Maybe just go back in and ask her to share something with you about this admin that you haven't called to your consciousness just yet, to share an insight with you. And close your eyes if you feel better and anchor just back into that moment.
I think I would ask, like what is your number one thing? What is your number one priority when it comes to this school and developing this school? And I think that the easy answer would be the students, but what about the students? Um, what's your number one focus? If you could only choose one thing to help support or develop in this building, what would it be? Because I want to know what's at the core and what's at the root of her values.
And what about that is important to you?
I think because it gives me a little bit of insight, because in our meeting today, which was just over an hour, I should have taken note of how many times she said data. But I think that what I'm curious is it because everything that's done needs to be justified? Or is it that the results can be seen so she knows if it's working, or she knows if it's like doing well in for her, right? So I understand the need for data, but I want to know, like, at the core what her value is, to have that as a kind of a jumping off point, maybe. Yeah.
So I hear data, but why?
Yeah.
Why do you need, for what reasons?
Yeah, because I wonder, is it for the development of the children, or is it to make sure that her staff are moving forward? Because her reputation in the school division is she elevates staff ability. She lifts teacher ability and skill, whether they want to or not. So I wonder if the data is, yeah, like, why? What's the purpose of the data?
Okay. Would you feel comfortable exploring the different outcomes of that? Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. So you mentioned that there were two potential outcomes for her root values of data. Why do you want to pick one first and explore what that impact would have for you?
Yeah. So the student data, for
Yeah.
sure. So I don't know at this school what kind of data she's keeping, but I know for at her other school, um, she kept data for students' reading levels. She kept data for, so there's an activity, or there's a thing in English class, and it's called Words Their Way. So it's essentially like understanding and learning vocabulary, and like how it's structured, and um, from kindergarten to grade 8 was the school. So understanding the morphology and the etymology of words at the higher level. And she had, and there's sorts, there's like 40 sorts per level. And she had every single sort written down, where every student was, and where they were within the realm of um, where they should be based off of grade. Um, and so I feel like I'm rambling and I can't remember the original question.
Yeah. What would be your response to why she needs the data and her
Oh,
root
I
values?
think, yeah, because I think that she doesn't want any child to be left behind. And she wants, when, children aren't progressing, she wants to know why. And she wants to know what's going on with them. And I think, in a situation like the school she's at now, where there's only one learning support teacher, we need to really hone in on those students that are not moving, right? That are plateauing, and um, really kind of looking at how those students can be supported. And also, if a large chunk of students in a certain grade are not at grade level, what can we do? I feel like she wants to know where everyone's at and make sure that everyone moves forward.
And is that something that you're getting a sense of, or is that something you're speculating?
I'm getting a sense of it just because when we went to her school. So she was at a different school, and that's like her legacy school. She cried when she was moved. Um, she showed us all the data, and she showed us the trends of how the students progressed through the program, through every term and from beginning to end of year, and how there was only a handful of students who were below grade level. So I think that from what I've seen, that's how she presented it, at least. And I don't know if that's just was her presenting like the efficacy of the program itself. Yeah.
So then, Lauren, when I say I need lots of data, don't come to me without data. What comes up for you in your body?
Well, what kind of data, right? So especially when you are thinking of like students with special needs, what does that data look like, right? Do you want data tracked on like how much they're being supported by their assistants? Like I could do that, no problem. That made me just think I have a data spreadsheet she's gonna love. You know, when it comes to students with severe disabilities, what does data look like to you, and what's the importance of that data, raw numbers? Because to me, teaching a child to follow a recipe is more important than their reading level, because we know that they're going to be behind, right? So life skills, how would you use data on things like life skills?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing on one hand that the idea of data doesn't intimidate you. You're
Oh
fine
no,
with it. It's really how it's applied and what it's used for, and having that
absolutely.
perspective. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because in my career, and especially in learning supports, yeah, data is really important. And I think that a lot of teachers, especially when in things like reading interventions, they don't use the data. And the devil's in the details, and how you need to move forward and how you need to change your practice, not the children, is in that data. So absolutely, I see it. But you know, what's the purpose? What's the intent? Because you don't want to be too data crazy. It's the same with like the thing in the States where everything's about testing and right. So then there's so many things about test prep now, where let's look at what the purpose of assessment is. It's um, to find what the child needs and to address that and move them forward, rather than they're at a level of 64, they're at a level F, right? So
Yeah. One is child-centered, the other
mm,
is outside focused. Yeah.
absolutely.
So what would be the most powerful way, now that you know, I guess, what drives her um, in terms of data or the use of data? What would be the most constructive way for you to have that conversation with curiosity, to ask the questions that you need and to get to the root of her values? What would be the best way for you to set it up?
So sorry, to get at the root of her values, not about the data or the data. I don't know.
So from what you were saying, it's really understanding. It's not just about the data, what sort of data do you want, but it's why. Why do you
Mhm,
want it,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
For what purpose?
mhm.
And you're more than competent of having the conversation around the actual data. So what would be the best way for you to actually set that conversation up with her so that you're aligned in partnership?
Mhm. Um, well, so one of the things that she wants to do is something called a class review. And I am a huge believer in that. So essentially what it is the teacher will fill out a form, and it'll talk about like students that are above grade level or doing really well, students that are like a really big concern, students that have a disability, students who have social emotional concerns. And what they do is they create like a web and a snapshot of the class. And so I think that that's really important. And I love that she has already said, like, this is what we're doing in the class profile and the learner profile. But then what are we going to do with it? Right. So I think my way in is I don't know what my way in would be, but I wonder what we're going to be doing with that information and that data. Because traditional, I don't want to say traditionally, but one of the older models would be, here are the students that are below grade level, we need to pull them out and give them intervention or remediation. And it's moving towards a push-in model, and that's what she's asked for. She said, you know, historically the school has been pull out, and it's going to be push-in. And so that's really exciting for me, because that's where the coaching comes into place, and there's going to be a lot of resistance, and I know that. But I wonder how doing these class reviews is going to change that, and how we are going to use that data to support teachers as well as students. Yeah, I wonder. I'm curious. And it's interesting because, so they've invited me to the school next week, because they're placing students in classes. And the first students that get placed are the students that need a lot of support, so that the dispersal is fair. But what they're also doing is they're walking around the school to see what students have what needs. So for example, you know, if there's a student in a wheelchair, they're not going to be on the top floor. Are they close to a ramp? What does the exit strategy look like for a fire drill or a fire alarm? And so I think that those are amazing that they're doing that. So perhaps I will get an insight next week, and I will be an active listener. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to get to the heart of her. I've seen her with students, and she's remarkable, and that makes me feel as though it's, you know, the heart of the data is to make sure every student is seen, heard, and looked after, because she truly does love children, and I know that, and I could see that in the few times I've seen her interact with kids.
And as you say that, and as you hear yourself say that, what comes up for you?
Well, obviously, as what comes to mind. But, you know, I think she's like the opposite of a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's like a sheep in wolf's clothing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe it. Where like she has like such a love for kids, but she needs to make sure, I don't know if she's like raging type A, that she has to like have evidence of everything that she's doing for her own good, and so she can report to people. I don't know. But I also think that because she's so intelligent, and it's not saying that like people that are not intelligent don't do this, but like for her, she's so well read. She knows all of the latest research on everything. So I think for her, it's, how do I help these kids? I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to research it. We're going to do this. Now let's see if it works. Right. And so I think she's like hardcore that way, but in the end of she's like she's the sheep in wolf's clothing. No, the wolf in sheep's clothing. The wolf in sheep's clothing. No, I don't. It's backwards. You get what I mean.
In wolf's clothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can you make the most of this as an opportunity? If you know that she is that sort of incredibly intelligent person who uses data to learn and to grow and to really make profound changes that help these kids, what's the opportunity in that for you?
To support her. Like, so when you say that, what I think of is the learning that I've done around like it's called the diversity profile, and all this kind of coaching for diversity. So when she talks about the data, what I can bring to her is the tools to support the data. So for example, all of these students, like there's this one weird gathering of kids, and they like half the class is below grade level. Then I can bring to her, and I know she knows these tools because she was at the same 3-day series that I was. Well, let's take a look at their classroom, and like, let's take a look at the top needs of the classroom, and who are the students, and let's plan for them. Right. So if she has all this data, I want to help her plan at the real life kid level. I just like, oh yeah, no, okay.
What's going on?
It's so. Oh, I think what I fear is like she's going to show me the data, and then she's going to say like I don't think she would point blankly say, well, what do we do with this, Lauren? Like, let's look at the data. Like, let's look at this specific kid. Like, what do we do? I think for me, I'm afraid of being put on the spot and not having an answer, and not just like faking it till I make it, or just like talking my way out of it. I fear that she is going to want me to know what to do with the student right away, and I might not.
Okay. So let's look at the energy behind this.
Me looking down and picking at my nails? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean, it would be really useful, I think, for you to articulate the energy flow.
Yeah.
As to what would be happening in that scenario. So what would be her energy in asking you this? What would be her intention? What would be the energy? And in what way would you be receiving that?
Well, I suppose if she was asking me, it's because she didn't know either, or she wasn't sure, right? Especially if it's talking about a really complex student, right? And that obviously didn't occur to me right away. I think it's, again, to ensure that there's something in place so that the child will succeed or improve. That's why she would be asking me.
And what would be the energy of you not giving her the reply or faking it till you make it?
Well, see, I feel like with her, you can't just be like, well, maybe we could do this, or this. Like, I feel like she'd be like, no, like, I'm on to you. I think I would use the language with her as, I'm curious, like, if we could use, maybe this behavior plan model. However, I might look into it a little bit more. Like, I think that I will give her my thinking, but not make it concrete, and let her know that I'm going to sit on it, because she's kind of administrator that'll email you at 9:30 at night because she's working until 11.
Lauren,
Right?
can I share something with you?
Absolutely.
So what I'm hearing in terms of the energy behind this is that she is looking to get something done so she can really help these kids. So the curiosity is authentic, or the need is authentic.
Yeah.
But the energy response that I'm picking up from you is a fear of being exposed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not knowing. A fear of not knowing, and that's unacceptable to you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to just anchor into that open, curious, willing to learn, willing to grow Lauren, and ask her what energy she would offer out in this moment, and what advice she would give you as to handle this as a template for all future moments when you feel that energy arise. So just take a moment.
Yep. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
Oh, I was just waiting for you to. This is yes, sure.
I would get data. So what I would do is use a couple different tools to observe, and maybe see like the function of what's going on for the student. So yeah, it would be data. Oh boy.
What comes up for you when you say that?
It's just funny because that's what she's all about, and clearly that's something that drives my practice a lot. Yeah. What I would do is I would try different scenarios, or I would use like I would personally look at the student, what I'm seeing, what the possible reactions are. So it's essentially like data tracking or making a matrix. Yeah.
And as you offer that up to as a response to her, what feelings come up for you?
I think relief, because I'm advocating for myself to give myself an opportunity to sit back and really look at what's going on formally and informally, so that I can come up with an answer and not feel an obligation to just automatically respond. Yeah.
And I'm also feeling that it's almost as if all the answers don't have to be within you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think like yeah. And it's hard because like a learning support teacher is considered a specialist teacher in a school, right? And I just came from a district level. Well, I'm finishing off this year in this role as a district level specialist. I'm a literacy specialist. That's what my name tag and my card says. So when people ask me, well, about things I might not know about, because I'm a district level specialist, I can't just like BS my way through everything. So I've learned to use the phrase, that's really interesting, I'm not quite sure, I'm going to look into that for you. Right? So why wouldn't I be able to use that at a way smaller scale? Because I want to know that I am giving the right answer, and I'm not just saying like, oh, I've heard it's really great, or yeah, you should look at this, right? So yeah.
I'm hearing the curiosity in that as you say it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, or as my colleague always says, like, I don't know if you know anything about Simon Sinek, but he has like the golden circle, and she's like, so let's start with the why. Why are you asking about this program? Rather than me saying like, I'll look into it, right? So it's funny because she's like, everybody needs to have why tattooed onto their arm. Right? So starting with the why. So why? What's the purpose? So yeah.
So then as you go into this new job, what could be the real why for you? What could you take this out as a purpose that will help you grow and learn? And, you know, as I hear you want to accumulate towards your potential goal of being an admin, or your potential goal of being a science and English teacher, or your potential goal of being a Simon Sinek on a wider stage, who knows? The world is your limit. In what way can this job opportunity feed into your why?
It's going to help me grow as a coach and a leader. And I think that nowadays admin is a lot of management. And I think the educational leadership piece is a small fraction of what it should be. So I think that this can help me with that. It can help me in my coaching and working with sticky people and tricky staff. And I think that it can help me develop in a way that I can be vulnerable, because I know that being vulnerable and rumbling, as Brene Brown says, is a way to grow. So I think that this opportunity will be very humbling in the fact that I'm, going to be working with students that I don't have a lot of background with. I will be asking a lot of questions. I will be asking a lot of why. And I think as well, it's going to help me really lean on staff, because I'm not coming in as, I don't know one student in that school. I don't know personally one teacher in that building, which is very rare, because that's a school that I never worked with. My colleague worked with this school. So one thing that I'm really looking forward to is leveraging the assistants. So there are a lot of educational assistants at the school, which initially freaked me out big time, because I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of complex kids. So there's 12 education assistants. So they're the ones that work with the high needs students. And a school will average probably 6. So they have double. And she even told me today, I am over my budget of assistance by $115,000. Right? So it's something that she believes in. So I feel as though, for me, one thing that I'm going to really gain from this experience is, and I was told by a learning support specialist in the division, so same kind of level that I'm at now, but for special ed kids, is there are some assistants at that school that are phenomenal. So I think that for me, it's not about a pecking order, that they're assistants, right? So for me, I think what it's going to be is learning from a range of people, learning skills, but also, I don't want to say using them, but supporting staff in finding and utilizing their strengths. because a lot of really cool ideas came out of our meeting today. So like they want to create some art therapy, and they want to make sure that because they have a PE, like physical education specialist, they want to make sure that everything that's planned is in mind with diversity. And so that's huge, and that's like that's leading the pack when it comes to inclusion. And so I want to work with, support, and learn from the staff in the building. And I think it's going to be really important, and it's going to be really interesting to go into that role, because I have not come into a school where I don't know anybody coming with experience. Because in my past history, I stayed at a school, so I went in as a complete newbie. Everybody knew as a complete newbie, so I like had an excuse, right? Which I didn't, but everybody knew that I was a new teacher. And then I moved here and opened a school with a bunch of staff, so everybody was new. Nobody knew each other, right? And so I've never in my life walked into a building where I don't know anyone. And so I think it's going to be a huge learning experience for me, especially because as an administrator, that's something that you do every few years. And then you try to move staff. Yeah. So there's been 3 admin changes already, and those admin have only been at that school for 1 year, which I fully disagree with, because change takes 5 to 7 years, but it's rare to see an administrator at a school for more than 7 years.
That must be incredibly unsettling for both the administrator and the kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the staff.
Yeah. So when you talk about wanting to work, support, and learn from the various staff that you have, what would be the way that you feel would get you the most support if you ask for it from the admin? What would be the most constructive way to ask?
So what I asked for today, and I don't know that this is necessarily the right answer, I asked, what do the transition meeting look like, and how can I get to know these students as much as possible before I walk into the building? And so I think that, asking to have meetings with the assistants and transition meetings, perhaps, so that the information sharing can come from multiple people. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. So, in what way would you be helping her by getting the support that you need?
That I'm not relying or leaning on her, right? So that I'm utilizing the experts in the building rather than just coming and asking. So for me, and creating connections, community, and rapport, right, is also going to be twofold.
And what does open and willing and curious Lauren have to say about the best way of you approaching that?
Tell me about the kids. Like, tell me what you know. Tell me what I need to know, right? So
that's that energy. I love that.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah. That's what I would be like. I want to know everything I can. Yeah.
So just checking in with you on where we're at in terms of your measure of success, which is skills and tools to help you get through it with curiosity and open mindfulness and willingness to try. Where are we with that?
I'm obsessed with the anchoring and bringing me back to that place, because that place is when I was so eager to take what I learned and to implement it. And I could not wait. And I didn't care how long meetings were, and I didn't care about anything because that's what I wanted to do. So I feel like this new job, albeit initially I was heartbroken about it, I know that deep down when I look at like the range of jobs I could have teaching English, that when it comes to this role, I have the most curiosity and tools. So I have less of a chance of getting frustrated and behind on planning because I have more of a excitement and curiosity to do better and to try new things. And I think that the fact that they're restructuring everything is a great opportunity. Will it be tricky? Absolutely. But I think the fact that everybody can learn together is going to be super powerful.
So would it be useful for you to summarize your key takeouts from our session today?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's to anchor myself back in my values of who I am as a learner and who I am as an educator. So rather than get caught up in anything negative or people judging me based off of my own personal thought of my self-worth, I think what's really important is looking at what I can do to make the school better and to support the students. So I think that I need to take less away from me and my confidence and more about how can I grow, how can kids grow, how can staff grow, and how can we do it together.
I acknowledge everything that you've done in this session and how you've gotten out of your own head and you've really seen this as an opportunity to serve and learn and grow. And I can really feel this amazing, open, curious Lauren who's like, I just want to know more. Tell me about the kids. And that's just
Yeah.
really infectious and really wonderful. I can certainly feel myself respond to that. So I acknowledge all of your strategic effort, and I also acknowledge your willingness to try, you know, during this session. In terms of anchoring, I can
Yeah.
recommend doing that every day. I'll send you a copy of this recording as well if you want to go through it. But it's the more you practice it, the more powerful it is. My coaching teacher, she had exactly the same thing. She used to press when she needed to. She pressed there, and that would put her into a resourceful state of mind. So,
I like that resourceful state of mind.
yeah.
Yes. So I wonder then if we can meet again when I've been in the role for a week or two.
Sure.